Okay, so these guys, they're all successful in their own rights with their own companies. They made a lot of good decisions, but not all of them were the right ones. Okay, so there's been probably some few mistakes up here. So tell us about a large scale change of direction where you knew you were heading in one direction and you needed to pivot a little bit because it was not where you needed to go. Stan, let's start with you. At some point in your career, you had to be going down the wrong path, or at least start to head down there, you do it, you pivot, you start changing direction. Tell us about that, a change a pivot.
I've had two or three. You know, the KCMA even hosted back in 2001, I think it was, the Chinese trip. Bill was talking about, we were over there, and we felt that pressure coming at us, and so, you know, so a drift in direction, we kind of partnered up with the Chinese effort, bringing import product in 2001 to 2007. And so I tested that out, and, you know, I spoke at the KCMA, and last time we were in Austin, and I kind of told that whole story, because then it was about 2010, I was finally out of it, but, you know, we came into a recession with half our barns Chinese cabinets, and that's millions of inventory. And all of a sudden, there wasn't a market for it at all. For me, there wasn't a market, and so we abruptly had to divest ourselves of that. That was a huge, and we, you know, fortunately, we worked real hard that year, and we were able to make products that matched that same style and color, and we worked our way out of it. By 2008, as we was entering that recession pretty hard, I got out of that. That was a huge shift in manufacturing for us, and I escaped a real disaster, financial. And as I said in the meeting, when I was talking in 2010, I still had some friends in it, and everyone was writing their inventory off 50%, 75% off, because, you know, everybody was getting out at the same time. And of course, now here later, we've been realizing that was a mistake, and we lobbied the other direction, American made. And so I was fooled, if you say on that. I'll say one other thing, a big shift in my business, and then, and it was a result of the same recession. We moved from new single-family construction and diversified 2010, 11, and 12, and got into what we would say dealer business, a kitchen at a time. And some of our customers are already in that, but we tried to move on up with that customer. And that opened up complexity in our business we never made any money in. We chased that for about 4 years. And so, and that, of course, that's exactly what Tony's business has been all these years. And we weren't trying to compete in that market at all. We were just trying to diversify and offer more colors, more doors now. And one day, Gene, I can say our national sales manager, he got me in a conference room, Stan. He said, you need to figure out what we want to be, you know? And he was fighting the same problems with me. And that day, I really came to grips with the narrow customer base that would make us successful. And what I knew since I had started was new construction, single family. And that was a major shift back to getting me profitable and in control of my business. The reason I wanted to mention that second story, because I think you really got to focus on your market hard, and then everybody in your organization knows what customer you're trying to satisfy also. It really put the team back together better, simplify our business.
Yeah. Mark, how about yourself? At some point you pivoted.
Oh yeah, pivoted a number of times, whether it was in furniture or cabinets, but I'll just cover one example in kitchen cabinets. Back when I was in Evans Cabinet, and enough of you have been around to know about 9 and 10 when we had the banking crisis, we were doing lots of government work, whether it was severe use cabinets, military cabinets, a few distributors, but that work dried up really quick. So at that point, you know, we thought we made a nice cabinet, so we decided to pivot and push into the multifamily market, where we would start, you know, bidding the bigger jobs, get the bigger runs, cabinets to offset the jobs we had lost in the HUD segment. And about the same time, the military was privatizing on-base housing, where they no longer required the military cabinet. So those two businesses, which was the majority of our business, 75% of it was shrinking. So we made the pivot, had to figure out how to install cabinets and, you know, make actually a less expensive cabinet. Instead of being an all-wood cabinet, we had to go to the particle board box, we had to go to the printed paper end panels from doing a much sturdier cabinet. So it was a big pivot, and training the people at the level of quality that we had to make that cabinet for the apartment business, and just how many you gotta make an hour to be competitive at it was a big shift. But we were able to pull it off. But there was a couple lean years in there where there was very little business in like 9 and 10 in the apartment segment.
Tony, you're not gonna tell us that you made all great decisions your whole career. At some point, you had to
I sure did.
take another path.
Well, when I started Starmark, our focus on Starmark was on dealer business, semi-custom manufacturing, and we developed quite a customer base of dealers. Well, the original investors that I had with Starmark needed an exit strategy. And along came Masco, and it was a great exit strategy for the original investors. I was the only one that stayed on and managed the plan. But Masco's focus was on the big boxes. And back then, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s, there were a lot of big box companies out there. It wasn't just the Menards and the Home Depots and the Lowe's, but there were almost hundreds of others that were out there that are no longer there today. Well, focusing on the big boxes was not a good strategy for Starmark. First of all, it hurt, and we tried to create private label so that we could take a private label to the big boxes, and it wouldn't hurt us with the dealers. And somewhat that worked, but it didn't work really well. And of course, the big boxes were a challenge. You couldn't build a solid relationship with the stores. And of course, our sales team was independent sales reps. And the big boxes just required a tremendous amount of service. A lot of turnover in their stores as far as salespeople and that. They wanted free displays, they wanted free cabinets, they wanted free this, they wanted free that. So it was not a good experience. Well then, after I left Starmark, and then I had an opportunity to start Showplace. One of the first things that we decided with the Showplace team is no sales to any big boxes, and no sales, not that we did with Starmark, but no sales to publicly traded builders. So today, we have over 700 dealers. It's very much of a relationship type of business. And we have not sold to any of the big boxes, nor do I think that the company ever will. And again, it's part of the culture of the company.
Yeah, they're a little difficult to deal with.
A little difficult. I mean, they never make mistakes. You get a lot of returns. They never made any
A whole lot.
mistakes.
A whole
Yeah.
lot. Well, thank you. So, we're all in business to make a profit. We're all for-profit businesses. And let's set aside dollars and cents for a second. And let's talk about, you know, what do you consider benchmarks for success? You know, forget dollars and cents, forget the bottom line. If you have to go back and look at it, look at your companies now, what do you consider a benchmark for success? Whether it's, you know, how many cabinets you produce a day, what your sales volume is, how many people you employ, and then there's other things too. Aside from dollars and cents of profit, what benchmarks for success do you try to look for, you know, aim towards? Stan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one right there. You know, I think a successful business leader, if he can look back and have attracted a lot of great talent and leaders in your company, that takes the pressure off of you and helps you build a business that your employees are proud to work at. I think that's what we've done and what I've tried to do all these years internally, and have a relationship with our employees. I would say that's a benchmark for me, for the company. I think the other thing that I mentioned for our customers, it sounds little to never miss the closing for one of your customers, but when our national sales manager talks about one time, the first year he was there, we was having a Christmas shutdown, and we was having a big event doing baskets for our employees and that type of thing, and so we just basically shut down, and one of our builders within the area needed something to close the house in December, and he and I, after the dust settled, we went and found enough parts that with an installer, we could close that house yet for that builder on like Christmas break. And that made an impact on my sales manager, Gene, and our customer expected, or they kind of grew to know that they can call on us no matter what. And so little successes like that for our customer, always be able to depend on us. And I'll even say through the COVID, we never had a builder have a house held up because of not having cabinets from our company. And that was a lot of pain and overtime hours and working the schedule with our leadership team, but we work for our customers hard. So I think that's a big benchmark for us. Always take care of our customers, putting them up there first.
What about you, Tony? Profit set aside, what's a benchmark for success?
Well, and I'm repeating myself, but creating the ESOP and the retirement program for our employees, that's number one on my list. The other things on my list is, in the case of Showplace, we've never had a layoff. We lived through the recession of the 2008, which started in 2008, really hit us hard in 9 and 10. We worked some short weeks, but we communicated with our employees. It's part of our culture. We told them, you know, this is what's happening with our orders. And we worked some short weeks, but never had a layoff. So that was part of our success. And we came out of it real strong. And then the same thing happened again with COVID. All of a sudden, we're sailing along, and I think it was in 2000, and all of a sudden COVID hit. And then all of a sudden, orders that we had with dealers were put on hold. They didn't want contractors coming into their houses and that kind of stuff. Nobody knew what was going to happen with COVID, and we certainly didn't either. But again, we didn't have a layoff. We saw the orders doing this, but we reacted. And again, we communicated with our employees. And we took the necessary steps to prevent any crisis as far as our plants were concerned. Again, we worked short weeks. with the reception, or with the recession and with COVID, we never cut benefits. None of those kind of things. So that has really helped us, and I think that's why we've been able to survive some of the hardest hit things in our industry. By being able to focus, or what I didn't mention too, back with the recession, we knew our dealers in 2008, 2009, 2010, were going to really be hit hard because of the recession. But we worked with them. And we worked with them as far as promotions and things like that. It was a good time to help them upgrade their displays. So again, we work with them. We have a dealer program as far as dealer funds that we set aside, and we use those. And we looked at ways for them to promote our products and be able to succeed, and it's worked for us. We have dealers that we started with 25 years ago, almost 25 years ago, and they're still with us today.
There's a reason for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a relationship business, and I think that's the way you survive. And it's the same thing with our suppliers. We're doing business with suppliers that we started back in 99, 2000, and they're still with us today.
That's great. Mark, how about you? Benchmarks for success.
Well, it's sort of hard for me to think in non-dollars and cents of people that know me and work with me all those years, but you know, I look at like the retention of the employees, how many guys have been there a long time, does their children or grandchildren come to work there? Just little things. You walk through these plants, are the people happy, are they smiling, they talk? So, you know, those are things you can't put a number on. And then, you know, I think from the sales side, are you coming out with the right products at the right times? You keeping this thing fresh, so that you always have something new out there for the you know, the market. And then other, you know, you're always going to measure stuff, whether it's yields or cabinets per hour or man hours per cabinet, all those things, and that'll, if you'll take care of those small things, the bottom line, the EBITDA number will take care of itself. But you got to pay attention to the business, and you've got to make sure you look at it in smaller time increments where, you know, what's happened today or for the week. Look at those results, make sure that you're getting what you're looking for. But you gotta have the right team, you gotta have them wanting to come to work, and they gotta want to win and be successful. So those things, as far as what I look at non-dollars that you need to do to make these plants and these smaller and then larger companies successful.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So let's pivot a little bit, and so we're at a KCMA event, obviously, and you know, these three guys have been involved in this association for a long, long time. As we mentioned, Tony's been president a couple times, been on the board. Mark and I were on the board for seems like ever. He's been president. Stan's been involved for, you know, since '82. No, you did your first tour in '70. So going back to the '70s. So, you know, what value, you know, why are you all members of this association? What is it about this association that makes you stick around for a long time, be active in it, be part of it? Is it the, you know, the surveys? Is it the networking, the long-term relationships? You know, the different certification programs? It's probably all the above. But tell us a little bit about, you know, why you came into this association and why you're still here, and why did you get active? Stan, let's start with you.
So, you know, the fall tour that you're on right here is one of the first things, like John mentioned, said, and I went on a tour that, I think it's 1979, we went to the kitchen compact plant. Back then, it was tied into the IWF in Louisville. The KCMA didn't take it over until the IWF went down to Atlanta, I think, and then the KCMA started picking up the tour. But I've just been, you know, every factory tour over those years I could go to, and the eye-opening experience, and the value, the little things you pick up and take back. I take my maintenance team some years, I always take my leadership team, depending on what companies, especially if they align with us. And so early on, that was huge value to me. When I went through the Granddad's plant back in the day, we had about 40 employees and 20,000 square feet, and we show up at his 600,000 feet factory, and they got rail cars in there unloading, inside their building unloading materials, and our company didn't even have a forklift yet. So, you know, we're those kind of ideas just open your eyes, and it did mine. I can tell you, it just catapulted me to knowing what we could accomplish over the years. And so the tours have been huge. All the other benefits that come along with the association, you know, these just, I'll tell another quick one. I was on the bus with John Golden in like one of the 1970 or 1980, and he still worked for Keith, the brass company, whatever, before he ever even went to work for Aristocrat. And we made a relationship 40 years ago, and then John Golden sat on my board after he retired for some years. The connections that you make in a relation in this room and on these buses, just touring around, last for many years. And most of the people in here, a lot of people since similar business, we become close enough friends. And I went up, Tony opened his boardroom up and his management team up for my daughter and I 5 years ago when we were looking at the ESOP and really studying that as well. Courteous members to each other, willing to share any kind of information. Paul, Stephen, and Wellborn, my daughter and I have been over and visited their family on, and really helping me form business continuation plans that now are solidified that allow us to stay privately held corporation, professionally managed, but not and we don't have to sell our company, and we don't have the pain that's been experienced with private equity and things like that. Now we've got a path, and so I say it's just part of it. There's just no way to put the full value, and then of course this big part of this challenge with China and getting these duties put in to stop that threat on us. There's no way any one of the, or a few of the companies could have rallied together to have done that. It took a whole association, and so we're proud of the association for that. And, you know, the things you mentioned, certification program, all those things around the table. I love the financial participation. We all do that financial survey. I was embarrassed with it after I did my first few. I just wasn't doing so good. And then I made a commitment that I was going to be the benchmark instead of on the high side, not the low side, you know. And I've done it. You know, you get your private letter. I look at that now. We've got benchmarks on the high side. Man, but you don't do that without knowing where the industry's at and potential. And so you set some internal goals for yourself as well. And so I get that one every year. We participate every year. That's a very important one for us. Right? I think since the big three are out of the room, I might talk about it like that. You know, I was Texas based in that era, 90s and 2000. And Texas had a wonderful economy, and especially 95 and 2007. And the bigger group, won't say, but whatever the names are, they decided to go with dealer direct in our states. And so that started happening, it seemed like about 95. And they had distributors and builder direct. They were selling to builders less than their distributors for some reason. And I was only selling to builders. So the pricing pressure got on us and it didn't last long, it lasted till the second recession, 07, 08. So you're talking about over a 10-year, 12-year time frame that my market that I lived in was on full assault. Those guys thought they were competing against their second soldier, or two of them. I don't know which two it was doing all lower. But when you're a public company, they were trying to build stockholder value by market share. That's at least that's my assumption. And so to pick up an extra $50 million in business in Texas is pretty important for stockholder value. But the pressure it put on me and my market, and we didn't deviate, we stayed in the builder market. But they just dried up all the margin that was in it for us, to tell you the truth. And so
Back then, but if it's still the same association, it was the way to do it. And what I found out over the years, what you put into it, you'll get back. And when I look around the room at how much talent is here and how we can all tap into each other's talent, our suppliers are a fantastic resource for all of us cabinet companies. And that's what's so special, I think, about KCMA. They meet the needs of us as members, whether it's the trade or whether it's numbers or what the industry is doing. And by participating in events like this and having your people go to tours, it's awesome. And that's why I've loved it over the years. And I think it's just a great association. I've lived through 3 different executive directors of the association, and each time the directors have gotten better, or the executive directors. And what we have today with Betsy is fantastic. And what you did with that video, I think everybody should give her a round of applause. And we're so happy that Showplace could participate in it, but it was so great. It's what we need to tell that story, the KCMA story, and to hear about the new members. And how many new members this year?
Since June 1, 2020.
And growing. We used to struggle to get new members back in the early years. And the last thing I'd mention is my very, very first tour was with Kitchen Compact. And I went through that plant, and I walked away and came back to Riviera, and I said, oh my God, what a facility they've got, and what work ethic they've got. And here they had, back then there wasn't many TVs around, but they had radios, and the employees were so engaged, and the productivity was unbelievable. The plant was fantastic, and I thought, my God. And all of this happened because of the association. So,